Happy New Year and welcome to a new edition or New Year's edition of the weekly update in the business and law of sports. A lot going on as always. You can see I'm in my scruffy look here on a snowy day in Philadelphia at the beginning of 2015. What I want to talk about today is sort of the coaching aspect. As you know, I cover the business and law of football, and what's going on is in advance of the player movement that we talk so much about in free agency with players in sports. Now it's the coaching side in the most popular sport, the NFL. A lot going on the coaching side. And let me explain the contracts first. Unlike NFL player contracts, and they have a union, the coaches do not have a union, yet they have more contractual security. Their contracts are, in effect, guaranteed. So coaches sign a 3 or a 4 or a 5-year deal. They basically are insured to get that money throughout those 3 or 4 or 5 years. Here's the caveats. As long as they are not fired with cause, meaning there was some material breach of the contract, they did something wrong, some moral ineptitude, some kind of breach of what they were supposed to do under the contract. So long as that's not an issue, they will be paid. The other issue with these quote-unquote guaranteed contracts is offset. Offset is really a way to reduce the obligation of the firing team based on the coach finding work otherwise with a new team. And the amount he's paid from Team B will be offset against what he's owed from Team A. So when I say these contracts are guaranteed, we really have to look a little closer and say yes, but subject to, as long as they're fired without cause, and number two, subject to offset. What is offset? So say a coach is supposed to make $1 million the next year. What happens is he goes to a new team and they say, okay, we're going to pay you $300,000. That means the $1 million obligation is reduced by $300,000. Team A, the firing team, owes the coach $700,000, Team B is paying him $300,000. That's nice and tidy, whereas offset gets stickier a couple different situations. Number one, where teams decide they want to pay less than market value. They know that the firing team is going to pay the difference, so they just say we're going to pay less than market value. I've been involved in these situations. It often has to end up in the hands of the NFL and say what is going to be done about this. Can they have to pay market value? Where is that going to go? For instance, a team fires a running back coach. The running back coach is making $200,000. He goes to a new team. The new team says, yeah, we really don't have much budget. We'll pay you $10,000, knowing that you're going to be paid. And the fired coach is only too happy to stick it to an employer that just got rid of him. So that happens. That has to be brought to the NFL's attention. There are arbitrations. What's the market value? I was involved defending a front office executive that was fired by another team. We hired him, and that team brought us to arbitration in front of the NFL. I defended the Packers at the time and said, listen, we brought this guy in. He was a high-paid executive, but the role we brought him in for was not the same. So we paid him that lesser amount. The arbitrator agreed with us and allowed us to pay that amount. The other sticky issue with offset with these coaching contracts is the issue of mitigation. Now, are these coaches that are fired trying to get work, trying to mitigate the damages of not having a job? That's where it gets sticky, because you see some coaches say, you know I'm getting paid by this team that fired me. Maybe I won't go looking so hard for a job. And maybe I won't even take a job that's offered to me that I don't think is optimal, that I don't think is a good fit for my career. That happens. And then, as I said, these more than we know, these cases end up in the hands of arbitrators through the NFL. How much is Team B paying? Why is they only paying so much? Why didn't the coach go and pursue work? And I've seen teams that stop checks. They simply stop putting the guys on payroll when they feel that the fired person has not gone and done due diligence, not mitigated the damages, not tried or even accepted other work. Those are the issues going on. One quick note about what's happened among coaching contracts that really caught my attention. Doug Marrone, the former head coach of the Buffalo Bills, on New Year's Eve, he decided to opt out of the contract, and he had in his contract an ability to opt out, and did. the part that really caught my attention was that not only could he opt out, but he kept $4 million. That would have been his pay for 2015, and according to the language of the contract, he keeps that money and without offset. So he can now go get a new job and seems to be in play for some head coaching jobs besides Buffalo and keep the $4 million and make whatever he negotiates with the new team. That caught my eye. Kudos to his agent for doing that. Now, the Bills were in an ownership flux situation. I understand that. And I know in corporate situations, yes, top employees can negotiate opt-outs based on new management coming in, new ownership coming in. That I kind of get. What I don't get is how he was able to keep the $4 million, and that's something to track. Whether he gets another position, usually with a player, and I assume it's the same with a coach, you're not going to opt out unless you know what's behind door number 2 out there. We'll see if that happens. So, even though there's very little going on in the player's side, although on the field, of course, the playoffs are in full swing, off the field, the business of football is in full swing on the coaching side. That's what we talked about today. We'll have more next week. Have a great week.